Right, well, first off, I will thank you for accepting the invitation to come here and talk video games.
Oh, any excuse for me to talk about my absolute favorite thing on the planet.
So far, you are the only person who responded that actually picked a game that I have played and I'm aware of.
Okay.
For spoilers, I can't say one of them because the episode I did with Elusive Tunes going up before this, so we spoke about Bully.
Oh, good game, good game.
So he's told me, and I'm still yet to play it. Admittedly, it's only the day after I said I'd play it when we recorded, so I've still got time. But you've picked not just like one game, but you've picked like the Borderlands series.
Yeah, the entire franchise means so much to me.
How did you start off in Borderlands? Like, what made you pick the game up? Or
Well, it was not even actually on my radar. So I only started playing it the year after it had released, so 2010. Because I'd met a friend, just started secondary school. I'd met a friend, and uh, turned out he lived a few doors down from me nan, and we did a game swap. And I was like, "Oh, I've finished Bioshock. Or do you want to play it?" And they were like, "Yeah, I've got this game, Borderlands." So I've went around and I've watched a bit of the gameplay, and something about it was just like, "Oh, that's cool." And they were showing me like all the characters, and I was like, "Wow, never heard of this in my life." So game swapped it, and then all of a sudden, I'm playing it every day after school. Any waking moment I can, I'm thinking about it. I'm on YouTube about it, just absolutely everything about the original Borderlands. Uh, and then from there, obviously, the lovers grew into Borderlands 2, uh, and then the pre-sequel. People hate the pre-sequel. I don't. I think it's overhated, is the thing I would say.
I'm indifferent towards the pre-sequel. I've never finished it, but I have played it several times and enjoyed where I got up to. But I don't really have an opinion on pre-sequel.
Well, I think like the main story itself is a bit poo, but the Claptastic Voyage DLC is phenomenal, and it adds so much to the game that should have been there. And obviously, an increase in level cap is always fun.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I mean when Borderlands 2 added Fight for Sanctuary just before the release of Borderlands 3, and they upped it to like level 80. I
and OP10, yeah.
Yeah, that was mind blowing. Like I didn't need more of an excuse to go back and play Borderlands 2, but it gave me an excuse to go back and play it again.
Yeah, I remember watching the show that they actually announced that on, and so I always live chat with a friend, like typing about most of the big game shows that are on. So like it'd be like E3 or the Game Awards and stuff. And I just remember seeing Borderlands, I was like, "Oh, is this a Borderlands free thing?" And then it was like, "Oh, Borderlands 2 DLC, like 10 years after it released." Well, not even that, like 8 years after it released or something. I was like, "Oh my God."
It was less of a shock for me because I am one like if there's a series or a franchise I like, I will look out for any news I can. And I was aware that Gearbox behind the scenes for at least a couple of months at that point was updating their Steam files.
Hmm.
So when they finally announced DLC, like it was nice to see, but it wasn't a surprise, at
Uh,
least for me.
well, I've only joined the PC like gaming sphere. Uh, Probably I'm coming up to the 1 year anniversary of owning like an actual decent PC to play games.
Okay.
Uh, so I was only always like a console player until like November last year, and so obviously I can't go to like Steam DB and be like, "Oh, there's been a hot fix, there's been a this, there's been a that,"
Yeah.
because you don't get that on PlayStation. So I was none the wiser. I'd heard leaks being like, "Oh, this and this," but I hadn't paid much attention to it because I was like, "Oh, it'll probably just be something stupid. I'm not going to pay attention." And then all of a sudden, whatever show it was, and I'm seeing that, and I'm literally like out my seat, like near cheering, like, "Yeah, like I can go back to one of the best looter shooters on the planet.
Do
And
you
it was
have? Oh, sorry, go on.
just like a good thing to get everyone hyped for Borderlands 3 was all I wanted to say at the end.
I mean, I have opinions on Borderlands 3. That's
Everybody does, let's be
yeah,
honest.
it's something we'll probably get into like later on in the video, but I'm assuming you've played near enough every entry.
uh, Other than Borderlands 1 and 2, I have bought every entry on release day. The pre-sequel, free Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and the two Tales games. Uh, I have, I am that dedicated that it was like the moment a pre-order's up, I'm like, yeah, straight to it.
So I've only played 1, 2, 3 in the pre-sequel a little bit. I haven't touched any of the others, but do you have an overall favorite entry so far?
It's got to be Borderlands 2 because it was so formative to like my teenage years.
Yeah.
So
I mean, did it have any like real world impact on you? Did it like affect the person you became? Did it affect like the games you gravitate towards? Did it like I struggle to find the words, and this happened with James as well. But like, did it have any kind of like impact on you as a person?
I would say it did stop me from doing very stupid things because my mental health was very not good as a teenager.
Yeah,
And being able to throw myself into the game, like the moment I get home from school to like 4 in the morning, just blank out all the mess because you know what school's like, the ruthless.
yeah,
I was
kids
this
are evil.
short, I was this short fat kid. All my mates had the growth spurts, and I'm there lagging behind. I'm not even the youngest in the year. I'm like smack dab in the middle, but I was short and fat, and I lost, like primary school friends because they'd all went off and made fast friends.
Yeah,
So I was a bit of a loner, and then obviously uh, bullying happens when you are like someone that they find as an easy target. So it did genuinely help me deal with a lot of the problems that I had personally and like emotionally. It was just something that I could just turn on, shut out the world. Nothing else matters.
no, I mean, I completely get that. I mean, I don't want to repeat myself because I'm sure my subscribers have heard me say this enough as well. But it's the reason why Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is my favorite game, and it's the whole reason I wanted to do like this little mini series is because I was in a similar position to you where my mental health was deteriorating rapidly, and it was only through playing Majora's Mask and seeing the conclusion of that game is what finally got me to go out and get help. So I can completely relate with what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's obviously because they did immediate DLCs to that game. It felt like the moment like you finished normal and through Vault Hunter mode, it was, oh, there's already a DLC, and like just having more content was so helpful because it was a new thing. Like everybody experiences game burnout,
Yeah,
but being able to then carry on, the story isn't even connected to the main story in the first DLC, but it was a new story and having new challenges, new level caps, new guns. It was just something to go for that was just easy to pick up, so hard to put down because it
yeah,
was just so. I don't want to use the word addicting because gaming addiction is a real thing and it is a real problem. If I look back now, I would say I was addicted, but it wasn't for the wrong reason. If I was addicted to the game, I was addicted to how I felt playing the game, escaping like all the problems I had at the time.
yeah. I mean, I don't remember if they released if we're speaking strictly like Borderlands 2 because that's where I've put the most time into. I'm easily approaching 10,000 hours on Borderlands 2 over like when it first released on 360 up until where
Yeah,
I'm playing it at least once a month for a few hours at a time.
yeah.
And I don't remember because when I first played it on the 360, I was still young and couldn't really afford to get the DLCs. It wasn't until they released like the Handsome collection
Yeah.
that I got to experience them all. It's one of the main draws because I think it's kind of hard tuned into our brains or hardwired into our brains that like we see because Borderlands 2, if you think about it, is or in the series in general is like a numbers game. It's all about getting a gun that's got a bigger damage stat, a higher accuracy stat. So you're playing through the game, you're killing the enemies, you're getting like the loot and the legendaries, and you see those numbers go up, and it's that serotonin release of getting a bigger number. And I think that's one of the main reasons it draws people in because there's always something better to get.
Yeah, the like reaching for perfect parts on a gun, and yeah, you could get all the same like manufacturer parts on the gun,
Yeah,
but that isn't necessarily going to be the best version of that gun because there's the prefix, then there's the barrel does this, the grip does that, the sight does this, and people want either the extra damage, the extra crit chance, quicker reload, and I feel like the complete like difference in it's the same gun like down to the bare bones of it, but then all the complete different assets that you can have on that one gun makes it like your own gun in a sense. If that like if you're understanding what I'm saying,
yeah,
like say I'm playing a Zero on Borderlands 2, that is the sniper person for people who haven't played. Uh, all his things are either like, ooh, more zoom, less sway, more crit, stuff like that. I would go for like a. So I'll go for like the most iconic Borderlands gun in Borderlands 2 is the conference call. Early conference call on B Field. We all know how amazing that was. Uh, So for if I was playing Zero, I'd go for the critical conference call. Now, people will tell you that the practicable, I can't say it. Uh, it's a prefix where it has like a foregrip. That is the best damage output, fire rate, and everything. But if it depends on your play style and the character you're playing, and it's that difference of play that always brings you back.
see, like I very much grinded out like god guns. Like I was always trying to get the perfect. I think the longest grind I've had was trying to get the 94% sham.
Oh,
And
everybody has tried that.
I've got one, fortunately,
Mm.
but for at least a year of my life, I had to settle with a 93%, and it was like the bane of my Borderlands 2 existence.
Yeah, it
But
is.
I'm also glad you mentioned Zero because he is my main. He's the one I main on Borderlands 2.
Mm.
And for the longest time, like every time I like was like, "Oh, come play Borderlands with me if you want to play a new game." Like I would always make sure when we get to bunker, I have like a bore set up.
Oh yeah.
What's it called? The Unkempt Harold, and I'd be like, "Check this out!" Like a level 53 bunker, and I'd just one shot him and just watch everyone's jaw drop.
Yeah,
Like,
it is such a good thing when people don't understand the game mechanics. Because let's be honest, that wasn't an intended feature
oh no, not at all.
to be able to do that to bosses. But the fact that they embraced it, I'm like, yeah, we'll leave that in. Like,
Yeah, because you can kind of I can't remember his name. It's in the Captain Scarlet DLC. I think it's Hyperion the Invincible. You can
Hyperius.
yeah, you can
Yeah,
like longbow a gravity grenade. I can't think of what they're called. You could line up all of the loaders, and you could get that shot where you take all the loaders out, and his shield drops just in time that you can like one hit him.
yeah. That's where like there's such a high skill ceiling for things like that because
Yeah,
people need to know like the perfect lineup for the grenade, the perfect lineup for then the second grenade, third, fourth, up to like 8 grenades you can handle at once, and
yeah,
you've got to do it without even entering the boss arena properly. Otherwise, he's going to do his big Nova, and like
yeah.
he puts you to Health Gate, which is where you're essentially one shot from going down. Sorry, not dying.
You have to hide in that girder. Like as soon as you enter the arena, you have to kind of like duck behind like a steel beam or something. If I'm remembering right.
Yeah, I always like to think like it's a silo or like a big tube, but it is basically just a big round steel thing.
Yeah, but that's what I like because like regardless of your feelings towards someone like Randy Pitchford, Gearbox always did kind of lean into the jokes because with Crawmerax in Borderlands 1, there was that glitch spot where you could farm in for Pearl Essence, and then in
Yeah.
the Headhunter DLC, which the name escapes me, it's the Hammerlock one. When you
Uh,
get to Son of
it,
Chrome, was that sorry?
I was about to say Big Game Hunt, but that's his actual
That's his
DLC.
actual DLC.
Yeah,
I
no,
I think it's the Wham Bam Island Headhunters pack.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. Wham Bam.
When you get to Son of Cormorants, like you have like the original three remaining uh, Vault Hunters, like reminiscing on it, and the fact that like Gearbox have been like, yep, that's a thing. Let's pay a little bit of homage to it, and there is actually like a similar glitch spot in that fight as well. I don't think you could ask for more.
Yeah, like the callbacks to like the most iconic, like original Borderlands boss being Chromarex, because that whole DLC that Chromarex was in the original game, the Armory of General Knox, that that was like completely different. It was long roads, and then all of a sudden you're fighting in a prison, or long roads and you're fighting so many Crimson Lance because they were still bad guys at the time,
Yeah.
uh, and it
Or
was genuine, and it was just so much was different. They added a new car or two. I think they added. I can't remember about the. I think they either had two new cars, and that was completely unheard of because it was like, oh yeah, we've only got the speeder car, and that gets you around like the main areas, but new cars was they even embraced the multiplayer aspect of it, and they made a four-seater car. But
yeah.
then to hear them call back to the original game in a £15 throwaway 2 hours of your time DLC was so like endearing and like validating of, yeah, they haven't forgot the original game. This is their baby. They will love it. They will cherish it, and they did, and they still do.
I mean, it's like going back to the DLC thing and just kind of going like on a tangent. I replayed Borderlands. What, like when it first came out, I played it. I finished it. I was like, okay, fine. Last year, I replayed it and all of its DLCs, and the one complaint I have about the entire game. Well, I've got two complaints, but we don't need to worry about that second one. But it was, you're doing a DLC area and then you've got to like come off for whatever reason, like you need to like go for dinner or you got to like go to work or whatever, and you could be like you said in the prison, and then you come back, you log in, and then it puts you right at that beginning like area again in like the Cormax DLC or like the beginning villagey thing in the Z DLC. I could not get over how annoying it was to have to start from the beginning of the DLC area again.
Yeah, well, I guess that comes with how they develop the games. Obviously, Borderlands 1 is you quit and you're back to the start of whatever loaded in level you're in.
Yeah.
Then Borderlands 2, it's still quite the same when you think about it, but you're not at the beginning of the DLC, you're at the beginning of the actual area that you're in. So to go back to the Hyperius, you would spawn
Back at the
in the
beginning of the
Washburn,
refinery.
yeah, of Washburn Refinery, but then Borderlands 3 took it even further. You can fast travel anywhere and you can spawn anywhere, not just at a direct like fast travel station. It would spawn you at your like closest one that you had activated. So it's how the games have progressed in terms of development that is actually quite interesting, that they've seen quality of life changes and they've made them. It shows that it is a labour of love when it comes down to it. And Borderlands 1, unfortunately, being so old, it does fall short at some aspects.
That's true, but I mean, at the same time, it is the foundation they built everything off. Like you said, like they progress different mechanics. Some things have changed drastically, some haven't. So, I mean, for Borderlands 3, I wasn't too keen on being able to fast travel anywhere because I'm tend to be one of those people where if I have access to go wherever I want, whenever I want, I will take the easiest method. It's the whole reason I stopped playing like Spider-Man on PS4 is because I can just fast travel there instead of swinging across the city. So I tried to limit that as much as possible, but I think that's just one of the ways that the Borderlands series being so open kind of like facilitates and allows players to play the way they want.
Yeah, it feels like it's your game, your way with Borderlands 3, because I know for me, it's if I'm playing Borderlands 3 specifically, I'm not fast traveling anywhere. I'm either using a car and I'm going to stumble upon like a nest of enemies, or I'm running to different side quests that I know like off by heart
Hmm.
to just do them. Like while my friends are doing the main quest, I'm just off down like some random alleyway picking up like a collectible. There's not collectibles, but
Yeah.
like a collectible for a mission, so to speak. And it's like, oh, they're like, oh, why have you done that? And I'm like, oh, it's gonna get us some XP like in 10 minutes. And they're like, oh, but I'm doing this main mission. I'm like, yeah, but I can do this without looking at it.
I mean, what kind of playstyle do you tend to gravitate towards? Do you like focus your time like grinding out the levels? Do you do like main quests? Do you focus the side quests and DLC?
Well, first playthrough it is main quest. It's finish the main quest as soon as, with a few side quests thrown in, and then like once the story's done, I know the story, and I've done the second playthrough. It is right max level, and now DL max level, best gear DLCs.
No, that's I'm the kind of person that when I play Borderlands 2, if like I'm starting fresh, I tend to blast through the campaign so I can get to Ultimate Vault Hunter as fast as possible, and then that's when I focus my grinding.
Yeah,
I tend to
that,
leave the DLCs until I'm at least Ultimate Vault Hunter.
yeah. Well, like I said, it is one of them where you can just play it however you want. For me, Borderlands 2, I will do the Digistruct peak skip to get to my action skill dead quick,
Hmm.
because it's literally open a gate, ding, you're level 3, because it's like a level 50 mission or something. And then there's been a new skip that's been actually found in the Digistruct peak, where you actually do the second mission and you just run to like the side, and if a few skags spawn, you shoot at them to gain aggro, but you're like stood on a cliff, and if you've done like even one damage to them, like and they jump off the cliff, then you still gain the XP. So that I will essentially speedrun the first 5 levels, because it sounds weird saying levels though, because it's not levels as in like game levels, it's levels as in character levels. So like for me, I don't say like, oh, I'm in the Digistruct peak level. It's a map.
Yeah, or an area, or
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
like it.
oh, I'm sorry, go on. Don't mean to cut you
Uh,
off.
so it is one of them of where it's like, oh, do I want to speed run this entire game and then get to the fun part, or do I want to load up an older character that I have got everything on and do some farming? It's whatever the thing takes me. If it's with a new person, I let them experience the game, but then the moment it's to the point where like they're like, oh, I'm like they're in their flow state, so to speak, and they're enjoying the game. That's when I'm just gonna run off and do things and just make sure we're both getting the experience to level up and progress the game faster.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was fairly younger, I was very impatient, and all I wanted was like a max level 0. So I used to like essentially blackmail my friends into getting on with me, and we do the glitch where in Marcus's firing range, one person like glitches out of bounds, goes out back, and then stands on top of the target with an infinity pistol.
Oh yeah, that was a classic.
It took so long in the end though when you was like hitting the
Yeah,
higher levels. But um, before we go off on any more tangents, let's let's try and get back to a couple more. Do
yeah,
you have an overall favorite NPC from the Borderlands series?
I do indeed. I have to say it's got to be Scooter, and I'm still not emotionally recovered. So many years after the original Tales, they didn't have to do that to my boy, and the they didn't have to do the mission in Fight for Sanctuary where it was the like memorial, so to speak,
Yeah.
and it was absolutely heartbreaking having to play that after playing Tales from Borderlands, and I was just like, oh, why are you doing this to me?
Well, that's what fucked me up is because I had nothing to do with the Tales games. I knew they existed, but I was like, that kind of game doesn't interest me. It's probably like non-canon. And I get to the Fight for Sanctuary DLC, and they're like I can't remember what the mission's called, but like Moxie's like, oh, my dear departed Scooter, and I'm like, what the fuck happened to Scooter? So I've had to go on YouTube and like all these years later, like have to learn that. Well, spoiler alert. Although I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you're well aware. But yeah, like what they did to him, like he went out like a badass though. Like he really had like a hero's end.
It shows what kind of person they wanted him to be. It was for the good of the gang that you're playing as in the Tales. It was like it almost felt like a cop out at the time, but then you realize, oh wait, no, that's how you'd want him to die. Especially with the deaths that you have in Borderlands 2 being, once again, spoilers, Roland and Bloodwing.
Yeah.
The Bloodwing death is this big set piece where it's being mutated and you've got to shoot it down, and then Handsome Jack decides to blow its head up.
Yeah.
And then Roland's death felt cheap, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had the question of like, it's like shields are like an established thing in the Borderlands universe. Roland obviously would have had a shield on, so how does Jack have a gun that's so powerful? Unless it had like he had like a trespasser sniper rifle. Like I don't see how he could have like got him in one shot.
It's one of them, isn't it? You can't expect every story to not have plot holes.
Yeah.
So, but it does feel cheap.
It does. But I mean, I think they handled it a lot better than Borderlands 3, also killing off a major character.
Yeah.
Spoilers again. When how they kill Maya off was such a spit in the face to fans, I feel.
Yeah, definitely the sirens are always a fan favorite, and I would say probably like the most fun. No, I wouldn't say she's the most fun to play, actually. I'd say she's the strongest to play in Borderlands 2, but she does have a very fun play style that is just either lots of elemental damage or you are running at the speed of sound and everything is dying around you.
Yeah, no, Maya was just an incredible character.
Her backstory was quite amazing as well.
Yeah, and like the Krieg DLC, the name fails me at this moment in time.
Psycho Krieg and the fantastic Fuster look.
That's the one. Like, I thought that was a really well handled DLC, like with Krieg coming to terms with Maya's passing, but I think I think it's fair to say that a vast majority of Borderlands 3 players, or just Borderlands fans in general, do not like Ava. And Ava's attitude and reaction to Maya dying feels very unjustified when you look at it, it is her fault.
Yeah, like, it's Maya is tutoring Ava, and it just feels like Ava's fucked her up in a sense of, oh, now I've got to chase after this stupid kid. Oh, look, now the big bads are here. Oh, and she's dead. It just kind of felt like, well, we all know that they can only be, well, I don't know if we all know. Spoilers again, there can only be ever 6 sirens at any given time in, I think it's the universe, don't quote me. Probably it's just on Pandora at this point.
No, it is the universe. I've had this discussion with a friend I work with many times. It is universal. There can only be 6 sirens.
Yeah, well, it does feel like it's a, oh, well, Maya needs to die because we've introduced this new character, but when you introduce a new character that's so grating and, like, I know at most times people aren't gonna like children. Children are loud and can be annoying, but to add like a preteen little annoying, yeah.
I can tell you're trying to hold back.
Yeah.
Have you seen when they did like the Borderlands director's cut for Borderlands 3? They included as a animatic for a scene that they never bothered doing, which kind of helped explain and kind of bring Ava into a more positive light. But they ultimately decided that her having a go at Lilith and blaming Lilith was the better option.
Uh, I actually haven't seen that. That Borderlands 3 came out at a time where I played it. I was in uni at the time. I played it. I enjoyed it, and then obviously the world went to shit in 2020. So
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, I wouldn't be able to quote it like verbatim for you, but essentially, what had happened is almost immediately after Maya's death, and they escaped from. I think it was on Promethea. That it happened. Yeah, because it was after like the weird dragon gorilla fight. So essentially, what happened is they were giving Maya like a send off, like they did for Roland at the end of the Tiny Tina DLC, where like all of the friends had gathered. They're having this heartfelt moment, and Ava's separated herself from the group, and Lilith's gone up there to talk, and like they have this really heartfelt discussion where like Ava's like, I know it's my fault, I'm the one that's messed this up, like I need to be a better person to like honor her memory and all this. Like it did, like even just as the animatic, it did such a good job of like redeeming Ava somewhat. But they just pissed that opportunity away, and I don't understand why.
so my whole feeling of it is she's just. I personally think that she should be a placeholder. She shouldn't be a siren. I think it should be like, oh, she gets the siren powers, and then something stupid happens, and she's not a siren. But if it actually humanizes her and makes her like a better character in my eyes, because I haven't seen this animatic. Like, I'm after this, I'm gonna go watch it, and I'm gonna probably have my mind changed on Ava. But right now, like to me, it's I don't like the character of Ava. It was grating. I think they wanted a new Tiny Tina.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Basically.
One thing I will also say is in the director's cut they did add a few side missions dedicated to like Ava as well, and they kind of go about redeeming Ava in a sense, but it felt like it was too little, too late. And it also did not have the impact that this animatic did. So I would, if you can, I would try and find like footage of both.
Mm.
Like just being fair, because I don't want people who watch this being like, well, actually, there was like that whole side mission thing that you could do. So I'm gonna nip that in the bud now, just to make sure no one
Yeah,
shouts at me.
that's fair. Yeah, like I can hold very strong opinions, especially about something that I've loved for like over half my life at this point. If I'm doing
Yeah,
the math right, probably not
I
doing the math right, but it's a good portion of my life that like I have loved this entire franchise, this entire game, and it's such like a hard like barrier to get through. If you don't like someone, you don't like them. Like I didn't like the Tyrene and whatever the fuck his name was.
Troy.
Three. Troy, yeah.
I can't
Didn't
stand
like
him.
them. Once again, going back to the Ava was trying to be a new Tiny Tina. They were trying to be a new Handsome Jack.
Yeah, and then I think Gearbox lent too much into like the streamer influencer gimmick as well, which just made them even more irritating.
Yeah, well, I guess so. It looking back at like how streamers have evolved recently, I don't know if you keep up with a few of them are actually quite the knob. And it's in retrospect, I personally think they've done a very good job of playing the cocky streamer. I just thought you can't beat Handsome Jack calling you on the Echo, being like, "Oh yeah, just eating pretzels." Going, "Oh yeah,
That's the bit I
that
was just thinking.
that diamond pony, by the way, yeah, it's real, by the way." I was thinking about naming her after you, but I thought I'll just call it Butt Stallion instead.
See, Handsome Jack, admittedly, that was one that took a while to grow on me. Like, it did get to a point where it's like, okay, mate, you're trying a bit too hard. But,
Yeah.
like, slowly over, like, the years of playing it, it's just kind of like, you know what, this guy is kind of, like, next level comedy. Like, I can appreciate him.
I think it's had like such a lasting effect on my sense of humor of like I can be so cut and dry with people of just being like, Like, just I can't even think of an example, but like dry humor is probably like the best humor
Mm.
that will make me like absolutely rib hair laugh. Because I remember there's just scenes in Borderlands, and it's just like, why has he said that? Why has he done this? Like there's a mission that like he offers you in like Iridium Blight, another map in Borderlands 2, where it's like just go and kill yourself and
Yeah.
he'll pay you. Like he will pay you so much just to kill yourself.
Or you can like puss out and call the helpline. Like,
Yeah.
uh, he also had that fake out mission where it's like, look, like my grandma's house, like I need you to go and check on her. Like, could you pick up some flowers along the way, like her favorite chocolates or whatever? And you get there and it's like, my grandma's dead. The hitmen have got her. Finally, it's just like,
Yeah.
wow.
It's such a good fake out that like it does just get you to the stomach of just like a proper good belly laugh, and it's just some so stupid jokes that get to you the best.
He is such a well-written character. Staying on the subject of characters, do you have a favourite playable character opposed to just an NPC?
But it goes per game really. Like I can't say I have the one definitive favorite character. Like so per game, Borderlands 1, it's got to be Mordecai. That was the first
Obviously.
character I ever played.
Yep.
Uh, Borderlands 2, it's got to be Necromancer Gage. She's the first character I've played in that. Borderlands 3, it's got to be Flak. Flak's just cool. Don't care.
I think
Just
we agree on one of three of those. Like Mordecai, 100% love Mordecai.
yeah,
Borderlands 2, it's my man Zero. Like, just bust out a haiku that doesn't make sense. Like in the middle of the situation you're in, that's fine. Love that. And then for me in 3, it was Zane. Like Zane's humor and his comedic timing on certain lines. Like the first time he sees an Iridian, he's like, "What the actual feck?" That got a proper belly laugh out of me. That line.
see, for my like first like solo playthrough, I went the Siren, and then for like my playthrough with friends, I went Flak, and Flak just is a fun character to play. I've went back and I've played bits of Zane, but like I've not done an entire playthrough as Zane, so I've not seen all of his one-liners. But from going from what you've said and what I've had friends tell me, he is probably the funniest character in Borderlands 3.
It's not even just funny. Like I've played through Borderlands 3 with like all of the 4 characters, and there's also parts where like characters are like genuinely emotional, and it feels like he's the most empathetic as well. It feels like Fleck's a robot, so he doesn't really understand emotion. Anara is like too hard ass, and it's just kind of putting on a mask. And then Mose is just constantly like, "Oh, suck it up, walk it off,
Yeah,
nerd." Like,
like still like in a soldier mindset, Moses. Yeah,
yeah, and like Zane's this like assassin who like personally knows Zero and has killed like probably thousands of people outside of the Borderlands 3 game, and he is genuinely the most like, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" Which was a bit shocking, but it makes you appreciate him a bit more.
yeah, I can definitely see that. Like from what I've heard of like hearing like voice lines through the game, he has quite probably the best backstory in Borderlands 3 as well, because he's like related to Captain Flint, who you kill in Borderlands 2. It's like the second big boss.
He's the young, because I think the oldest brother is, I think it's Baron Flint in Borderlands 1, then Captain Flint. He's the youngest of the 3 brothers.
Yeah, and then I think like they also in that Wham Bam Island DLC, there's another Flint that like
Yeah, Sparky
yeah,
Flint.
yeah. So like I think he's like probably the second youngest. So Sparky Flint's like one of the sons of like Captain Flint or Baron Flint.
Something along those lines.
Like I probably should have played the games in the lead up to this just to get like everything back into my head, because the moment you start playing it, it's like a Jimmy Neutron brain blast, and it's everything's in your head. That is such a dated reference. but it's so true.
No, it is because I literally I sat down last night and played it for like an hour. I went through. Christ, which one did I did the Halloween DLC, like TK Baha's Halloween one, and I sat through like almost all of Tiny Tina. Admittedly, I was like halfway through it on the save I'm on now, but it's amazing how much you remember playing a game like Borderlands 2, considering how much there is in the game to do.
Yeah, especially when it was supported for like I think they did two DLC waves and then did other headhunters. It was supported for at least 5 years. Then just fixes for like the next few, and then obviously the final DLC, Fight for Sanctuary, and it's such like a big game in terms of yeah, it only came out in 2012. Yeah, you could probably fit it if you condensed it into like 6 gigabytes to play it on like an Xbox 360 because games back then were just so tiny, but it's such a big game, like, and there's so many nooks and crannies and side quests that you can just there's things that stick with you, and you'd be like, "Why is that stuck with me?" And it's like, "Oh, because it's like the stupidest little thing where, like, in the Captain Scarlet DLC of Borderlands 2, you have to kill a perverted robot that's been keeping like nudie magazines, and his name is Perv E.
Oh, I remember that. That was in the Washburn Refinery as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, but it's little things like that that you will always remember because it's so outrageous that like a robot has developed being a pervert.
You say that, I think I could probably nail down my favourite line in all of the Borderlands franchise in the Mad Moxie's Wedding Heist, or whatever it was called.
Oh,
It's...
I didn't play many of the Borderlands 3 DLCs because
Oh, this is
came out.
Borderlands 2, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, no, this was... It was the Valentine's Day Headhunter pack.
oh, okay, yeah.
And Moxie is talking with Innuendbot, or whatever his name is. And unprompted, out of nowhere, he just turns to Moxie and goes, "My head looks like a penis." And I had tears in my eyes. That line has stuck with me through thick and thin.
Just like out the blue, off the cuff.
Yeah,
My hand looks like a penis.
like he's making like all of his innuendos like he's programmed to do, and then there's like a solid like 5 second silence, and he's just like, "My head looks like a penis." Oh, that's what I really love and appreciate about Borderlands is like Borderlands 1's humour was a lot more cut and dry. Borderlands 3 kind of it let itself go. It became a lot more campy. And then Borderlands 3's comedy was hit or miss. But I don't think we are ever going to get moments like that again in future Borderlands games.
Yeah, well, thinking back to that same DLC, actually, there's two robots that are like married, and it's like one of them has a
Yeah.
wig on, and it's like whoever you're playing as goes, "Oh, I'm gonna need that wig," and it's like, "Oh, if you take this wig, it is wired into my psychotic receptors. If you take it out, I will go psycho and I will start killing you." And then like the husband robot is like, "We are wired together. If you take her wig, I will also try and kill you." And it's like, but we need the wig for a
Yeah, we
mission, so.
need it. It's a tough shit.
But then he also goes. But then the second robot, the guy robot goes. You could just leave the quest uncompleted in your quest log.
Oh, that
And
reminds me as well.
it's so stupid, but it's so great.
It's like I can't think of any other time where like the Borderlands series has broke the fourth wall except for Fight for Sanctuary, and that's when you've got to fight Uranus, and like Tiny Tina is just absolutely pissing herself at like the name Uranus, and like you destroy him, like you got to go and find his core or whatever, and she stops laughing, but then the objective on the side says probe Uranus.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, that's so funny! Oh my god, I just read the objective again." It's just...
Yeah. Well, I think it would only work in breaking the fourth wall with Tiny Tina because
Yeah.
she gives that kind of like Deadpool energy where like she exists in her own universe. Everyone's just living around her.
She's just like a quantum state.
Yeah, like she is the perfect character to break a fourth wall. It's like further on, like 2 seconds after that, it's like you can push the button and she starts crying, or she's like, "Can I push it? Can I push it? Can I push it?" And you say, "Oh yeah, go on, push it." She's like, "Yeah, you're the best."
You gotta let her push it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, she is my favorite NPC.
Mm.
Like, I mean, Steve's a close second though. Like, there's just
Heyo!
yeah, there's something in the simplicity of Steve that just makes him S tier.
Yeah.
And then, have you played the I think it's called like Friday Night Poker or something, and Claptrap's one of the playable characters.
No.
Oh, there's
But
there's
would
an
that be in the prequel?
no, like this is its own individual. Like it's a completely separate game where they get characters from different franchises to like play poker with each other.
Oh, okay.
And Claptrap's there, and then like every character has like a background character that like they can interact with, and Claptrap has Steve.
Oh, wait, no, yeah. And like, he goes, "Heyo," and it's like, "Shut up, Steve!"
Shut the fuck up, Steve. But that only happens if you're losing really badly as Claptrap. Oh, I love.
Oh, so like, Claptrap's just a DLC for this poker game, essentially.
I don't know if he's DLC or if he's like base
Yeah.
game, but he's definitely in it. I can't think of what the game's called, but I think he's playing like with like Sam and Max, like the rabbit character from that, a guy from like the Adventure Bros, and I
Oh,
think
okay.
GLaDOS maybe.
Oh, fucking GLaDOS.
That's a whole other
Yeah.
that's a whole other can of worms. But so I don't actually have any more questions for you, but is there any like last little statement you want to make or anything you just want to kind of like get out there about the Borderlands games?
Uh, just play them genuinely. Borderlands 1 is going to feel so slow. Borderlands 2 is going to feel amazing. Borderlands 3 is going to be like, is this just a movement shooter now? uh, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, shit, but still worth a play. The pre-sequel, overhated. I will say, if you have the chance to play the pre-sequel, skip. The moment you are the right level, play the Claptastic Voyage, and just absolutely play the death out of the pre-sequel, because I need more people to love the pre-sequel, because I am fighting a losing battle when I say I fucking love the pre-sequel.
I mean, it is something I need to finish at some point. I got up to the fight with that woman with the silly name.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of her name, but because it's been a
Up at the
while.
top, I don't.
That's the one. And Anton Jack's constantly laughing at her, but no, I completely agree with you. Like, these games are incredible, and to see the evolution of the games as they go from like Borderlands 1 being slow, Borderlands 2 just being like this over the top, like just oh, it's so good. You can't describe it as anything other than just so good. Borderlands 3, if you want like a solid mechanical like game, something with like solid gameplay and you're not too fussed about the story, that's probably like the creme de la creme. Like I much prefer Borderlands 3's like mechanics over 2, but 2 has the more solid story in my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%. 3 is going to be like the best in terms of game feel, because it was at a time where they went, oh shit, yeah, mantling, sliding, obviously, inspired by games of like the present, which now you have to like have mad movement and everything, but just a slide and a mantle makes life so much easier instead of doing like, I've got a grenade jump up here in Borderlands 2. It's so good in a sense. But even then, the pre-sequel, once again, the pre-sequel, they had a double jump before it was cool with the Oz kits, because it's set on Elpis, Pandora's moon,
Yeah.
and there is no gravity, and it is so good.
Just before we end this off, I do actually have one last question for you before we like wrap this.
Okay.
When you're running in Borderlands 2 to get somewhere, do you also do that thing where like you jump to get like that 1% speed increase?
Frame perfect jumps for the actually measured 1% speed increase has to happen. It is a very well-known fact in Borderlands that if you jump while sprinting, it is only 1% quicker but it doesn't feel 1% quicker. It feels so much faster.
Oh mate, especially if you've got like a high FOV on as well, you are
Oh
zooming.
yeah.
Like,
I play on 105 on Borderlands.
yeah,
Like,
same.
and I say 105 is the perfect FOV, but if you crank it 120 on Borderlands 3 and you treat it like how people treat COD movement now, you feel like you're gonna vomit or you're playing Quake again.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. Like, it has been an absolute pleasure just talking Borderlands with someone who gets it.
Absolutely, the pleasure's all mine. Like any excuse to talk about something that has had such a profound impact on my life, and just something that I've sunk far too many hours into that I won't get back, and I'm happy that I won't get them back because they were so well spent.
Yeah, and again, I completely agree with you. Like, almost 10,000 hours down the pisser, but it was well worth it.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Stick around for the third of 4 videos where I'll be talking with a friend of mine, Kai, about his chosen game. Don't forget, let me know down in the comments below what games you think are the most impactful or that have had a profound experience on your life. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Oh, my voice went a bit there. I'll keep it in.